This is Campus News, reporting the top stories from colleges and universities.
Next on Campus News.
Find out what unique instruments a Texas-based duo brought to MSUM.
Fewer students through the doors. See how this business is adapting to changes brought on by COVID-19.
See how one NDSU professor is making a new kind of lab her reality.
Find out what big changes NDSU's new basketball coach is making in his second year of coaching the team. Good morning and welcome to Campus News. I'm Eric George.
And I'm Alex Larson.
This time of year, local restaurants and bars are typically packed with college students who are looking to blow off some steam and relax after a busy week at school.
However, the pandemic has changed everything. Reporter Mike McGurran paid a visit to the Boiler Room in downtown Fargo to see how they're doing in these unpredictable times.
It's a busy day in the Boiler Room in downtown Fargo as employees hastily rearrange tables and chairs, as they have done many times this year. And Governor Burgum's recent lowering of the state's COVID risk level allows bars and restaurants to now serve up to 80% of their normal capacity. While the move is intended to make things easier for local businesses, the Boiler Room's general manager, Jenny Olson, can't help but have mixed feelings about it.
Even though he says, yeah, you can be at 80%, we're still not going to be at 80%, just because we want to make sure everything is appropriately spaced out.
While Jenny and her staff try to make the best of their situation, the decline in college-aged patrons has been noticeable.
Personally, we've definitely felt a hit of the college students not coming out. We actually catered our hours to college crowd before. We'd be open until midnight or 2 a.m. even, but now, since we don't have that crowd, we're actually closing at 10 p.m.
Whether it's ensuring customers and staff are wearing masks or simply keeping the tables spaced apart, businesses like the Boiler Room face many problems. Servers like Tori Pierce sometimes struggle with the constant changes.
I think the most challenging part is just not being able to do our jobs like we were used to.
Despite all of this, Jenny says the staff has gotten better at adapting over time. While business at the Boiler Room can be very unpredictable lately, she is grateful for the customers that continue to come out.
To the people that come out and are kind, thank you.
Many restaurants in Fargo Moorhead were hoping that the pandemic would be over by now and that they could return to business as usual. For now, it looks like it will be another slow winter, with challenges still to come. With photographer Eric George, Mike McGurran, Campus News.
In light of the new restaurant guidelines, the Boiler Room is resuming its normal hours on weekends. A Rhode Island university goes into a shelter-in-place after a spike in COVID-19 cases. After a spike in positive cases, Sal Regina University is ordering a shelter-in-place for all students. All undergraduate students must remain in their residence unless they need to leave for essential items or to receive a COVID-19 test. The university says the main reason is because students are not following the safety guidelines. Clubs and organizations at MSUM are facing restrictions due to COVID-19.
Students on campus are finding new ways to maintain their social connections. Most activities, like those of the Gamers Club, now have a maximum occupancy of 15 people per room. For those who attend in person, they are expected to follow social distancing guidelines when participating. To help include those who can't attend in person, Gamers Club is shifting to a partially online format. They are using apps that can stream games to anyone who wants to tune in.
We've actually been trying Jackbox along with Tabletop Simulator and a few other online games that people can participate where like only one person really needs to own the game, but everyone else can participate due to like websites that connect it.
Kester says that the Gamers Club has not seen a decline in participation due to the pandemic. With a new year and a new administration, President Joe Biden has begun a writing series of executive orders. Reporter Ty Schoner talks with an expert on MSUM campus about how one will impact college students nationwide.
We'd have at least 50% or higher that are in repayment. Right now it's showing that there's a 0% in repayment.
Melissa Dingman's talking about one of President Joe Biden's new executive orders. The order would renew the freeze on student loans. It was once set to expire on the 1st of February, but is now extended until the 30th of September. The freeze will affect nearly 40 million college students across the United States, but will impact some more than others.
So students who graduated last May or, had a summer graduation or something, they would be starting a repayment plan, but they would not actually have to make any payments.
With COVID-19 impacting many aspects of people's lives, it has become difficult for many Americans to stay above water financially. Biden's new order will help keep them afloat for a bit longer.
Students are working a part-time job or have had some job insecurity where hours are being cut, or if they worked at a restaurant, the restaurant is closed. So just having some of that pressure relieved on their finances is a huge help.
Melissa sees the freeze in loan interest and payments as a good thing. She hopes that students take this opportunity to settle other debts that they may have.
Good time to save up your emergency funding. Like if you need an emergency account and you don't have one, do that. Or if you have other higher debt like your credit card or other things, a car payment that has interest on it, make those payments first.
The freeze on student loans seems to be the beginning. Democrats are talking about student loan forgiveness, which has serious potential to land on President Biden's desk. With photographer Marissa Shyok, Ty Schonert, Campus News.
Melissa says anyone can still pay their student loans if they wish, but they will remain frozen until the end of September. The NDSU School of Nursing is getting busy due to the new COVID-19 vaccination. Over the course of the next 5 weeks, at least 55 students have volunteered to help administer the COVID-19 vaccination. The vaccination will be handed out at community vaccination centers managed by local healthcare providers. Students that are volunteering said they want to help the community and stop the spread of COVID-19. MSUM brought its new nursing program to life during the fall semester.
Reporter Kate Almquist tells us about the challenges of beginning this program during the pandemic and how it has only elevated the importance of nurses.
You might think the hardships of this past year would cause student nurses to shy away from joining the profession, but that is not the case for these MSUM students. Beginning the program last fall in the middle of a pandemic, students in the nursing program haven't had a traditional start to their nursing career.
Nursing, as everybody knows, is a very hands-on profession, so social distancing is really a challenge when you're trying to teach students how to be a nurse.
While the fall semester was mostly held via Zoom, they have been able to spend more time in the lab this spring by limiting their time together and working one-on-one with other students.
For the most part, they're happy to be getting back into the lab setting and back where they can practice skills like today.
Because the students started this program during COVID-19, they already had an idea of what to expect in terms of how the classes would be delivered.
I think when they made this program, the idea was that it would be a lot of hybrid, so we've been okay so far. I just feel like part of it is we don't get to see each other enough, so, it's been hard to, have a cohesive, feeling for the class.
Although the students may find it difficult to adjust, the motivation for pursuing this profession is still there.
It hasn't really changed my desire for nursing, though. I'm in it.
Despite the change and challenges, the nursing program is more encouraged than ever to continue educating their future nurses. With photographer Jenna Scott, Kate Almquist, Campus News.
These students will be some of the first at MSUM to receive their registered nurse license through the new Bachelor of Science nursing program. NDSU is coming up with creative ways to keep their students protected from COVID-19. The Resident Hall Association of NDSU put on a virtual tie-dye mask event. Students were able to pick up kits before the event to bring home. Students were able to follow along with event coordinator Christian Wall as he showed them a step-by-step tutorial on how to tie-dye their mask. Education has changed before our eyes in the past year due to the pandemic, and schools nationwide have learned how to keep students engaged from a distance.
For certain students, the distance is measured by oceans and 21-hour plane rides. Reporter Grace Magstad spoke with an international student at MSUM to discuss the changes and challenges of going to school while living across the world.
Online schooling is difficult enough when you're in the same country as your university, but when COVID forces you to live overseas, it becomes much, much harder. Ayaka Takin is a third-year student from Japan, majoring in photojournalism. In order for Ayaka to be in class on time, she has flipped her sleeping schedule to being essentially nocturnal.
Right now it's 12:30.
With the major time zone difference, her 9 a.m. class is at midnight. The bizarre schooling hours have challenged Ayaka in many different aspects of her daily routine, her social life being a major aspect.
It's 12 midnight is just still okay, but like at 3 a.m. in the morning or 4:30 in the morning, it's just like sometimes kind of hard to stay up all night and sleep during the day.
While staying at MSUM would have been the easier choice for schooling, Ayaka felt it would be the best option to move back to Japan.
You know, my friends and my family just all live here, and well, I feel like the insurance and the safetiness or whatever is more better than, being in a country where I don't have, any citizenship.
These crazy times have put Ayaka in a difficult position when figuring out priorities about her education and social life. Due to the stress put on her body and lifestyle, Ayaka has decided to come back to the MSUM campus to finish out the duration of her degree. Photographer Jenna Scott, Grace Makestead, Campus News.
Since we spoke to Ayaka, she has returned to MSUM and is settling back into campus life. While most of Minnesota's beaches may look clean, new research at the University of North Dakota shows we may need to take a closer look. A student at UND conducted a study on 20 northeastern Minnesota beaches. Using a microscope, he discovered a small bead of plastic, otherwise known as microplastic pollution. This means that although northeastern Minnesota beaches may be cleaner than those on the coast, they are not exempt from pollution.
An MSUM professor has received a $25,000 grant for her work with mice. Biosciences professor Dr. Sumali Pandey's research is helping farmers across the map. Dr. Pandey and the students in her lab are studying fungal asthma, which is caused by fungal spores in the environment. Some people are allergic to these fungal spores. This research can help farmers who deal with the fungus and grain dust from their crops.
We give them the fungal exposure, 10 minutes per exposure. Then we have a protocol where we change the cages, put them back, let them come out of the anesthesia so that we know they're back in their normal state. And then they go back into the colony.
Some people are allergic to these fungal spores. The effects of exposure can cause permanent damage to the lungs. The research can help farmers who deal with the fungus and grain from crops. It has been extended to study the differences between male and female mice.
Even local artists are having to make adjustments because of COVID-19. NDSU just reopened its Memorial Union Gallery with a new show. Celebrating their grand opening after being closed due to the pandemic, NDSU's art gallery took to celebrating with a showcase of some of their newest art on display. These works were created by staff in the Visual Arts Department. The event was hosted by Anthony Ferris, the gallery's curator. College students in the Fargo-Moorhead area can enjoy a unique artistic performance this month. Tom Verano is a photographer, visual artist, and speed painter, known for his distinctive presentation. He paints custom portraits with his palms and fingertips while mixing in motivational speaking. He often creates these portraits in as little as 5 minutes. Verano is scheduled to perform on February 18th via Zoom.
Even though the MSUM Theater Department is expected to shut down within the next 3 years, Theater Director Craig Ellingson is not letting that keep him from teaching classes and leading virtual events. Ellingson keeps his Dance for the Stage class going with the requirement of masks being worn throughout the class. He says his dance class is his way to get students exposed to as many dance styles as possible.
I think everyone was really in awe, kind of shell-shocked. I think that the theater arts program has had a very rich and has contributed so much to the university as well as to the community as a whole.
Director Ellingson says he's been using his years remaining with the program to keep performances going on the campus, though he said they may not be performed in the traditional style. An NDSU music professor has been recognized by the state of North Dakota for her contributions to the arts. Dr. Joanne Miller received the Governor's Award. It's in honor of her more than 30 years of teaching music at NDSU. That includes being named as the university's Distinguished Director of Choral Activities. She also leads annual performances like the Baroque Festival and Handel's Messiah. Miller says she tries to build community and friendships through music. The Governor's Award for the Arts started in 1977 to recognize those who contributed to the arts throughout the state. The University of Austin, Texas will host a virtual science festival known as Biggest Texas. This event will feature well-known scientists as well as hands-on projects. This includes explosive experiments, telescope viewings, and the ability to interact with professionals in the science community. The festival will also be free and open to the public via Zoom starting February 16th. Teachers and professors at local universities have challenged themselves to rework how they teach.
One instructor at NDSU is using a unique way to bring her students to a new reality of learning. Reporter Ethan Studi talked with her to learn more about what she's bringing to the classroom this year.
These labs
Dr. Chennai Simsek's laboratories at NDSU were once full of students. The purpose of these labs was to demonstrate the chemicals and ingredients that can go into bread and other wheat products, as well as the effect they have on our bodies. But because of COVID-19, the labs can now only hold up to 2 people at a time. This gave Dr. Simsek the perfect opportunity to develop a teaching method that she was considering.
Before again COVID-19, I had this vision of utilization, virtual reality to enhance the learning. But with COVID-19, I had to be quick.
Simsek and a few collaborators developed a VR course over the summer that serves as a virtual recreation of her lab demonstrations and experiments.
The good thing with virtual reality is when you put the headsets on, you can actually really feel like you are inside that environment. You turn around and you have control over going back, moving forward.
Students are able to watch video demonstrations, simulate the projects, and even explore a nearly identical digital copy of her lab, and all within a tiny suitcase with a pair of goggles and 2 hand controls. Simsek says she first became interested in VR after using it to explore Google Earth, and thought it would be good for a virtual lab. So far, her students seem to agree.
I didn't get the feedback or formal evaluation, but the feedback is awesome. Everybody actually is very thankful and they think it's a great idea. Why? Because it's much better than just sitting in front of computer.
Dr. Simsek plans on utilizing the VR lab after the COVID pandemic is over, and extending it for educational, non-college uses.
I plan to use VR technology to introduce food science to K-12 students, because there is so much you can do in front of them in terms of experiments, but the VR, they can put on the glasses and they can explore the great world of food science using the virtual reality.
And as technology develops, creations like those of Dr. Simsek's could be more commonplace. With photographer Devin Elliott, Ethan Studi, Campus News.
NDSU students who would like to experience this virtual reality are encouraged to contact Dr. Simsek. And now we turn it over to Jordan for a look at this week's sports.
So how's NDSU women's basketball doing, Jordan?
A lot of change over there. The North Dakota State women's basketball team is out to a hot start after a disappointing season in 2020. For more, we go to Joe Keller to figure out what that big change has been.
For years, the NDSU women's basketball team has struggled. But now with a new coach and a new system in place, the program is shooting for more success.
Well, I think in general, just probably a year of growth with each other.
That new coach is Jory Collins, who is now in his 2nd year coaching the team.
We have a lot of new players. We have a lot of players some players that weren't eligible last year that have been impact players. We've had some new players that have been impact players. But even our kids that have come back that played last year have been just another year with us as coaches and us with them. I think that growth together has probably been the biggest change.
One of the players stepping up this year is senior forward Emily Dietz.
I mean, I credit the coaches a lot for, my personal growth in my game. I credit my teammates for my personal growth in my game. I couldn't have done it without any of them. So it's been a blessing. It's been really fun to play here.
Dietz says the changing culture had an impact on not just her, but also her teammates.
He, stepped in here and just tried to motivate us as best as possible. And I think, the competitiveness in practice that's been one of the biggest areas of growth. We're just a group that competes day in and day out. And then I think the confidence of this group too. We can step into a game knowing that we have a chance to win.
The Bison's recent success has not come without some adversity. With the team following all of the COVID guidelines, there have been unknowns from week to week.
For us, we've dealt with our fair share of having people quarantined and being out for practices and even games now. But what I've really liked about our team is we've really just kind of put our head down and went about our business.
And the players are up for the challenge.
But like I said, our group handles adversity really well, and we've been able to, just get the reps in practice for those people to become comfortable in that position.
That's what we were preaching in the summertime and into the fall is control what you can control, take care of yourself. If we want to have a season, it's up to us.
With new adjustments at every corner, the goal stays the same. With photographer Jordan Austin, I'm Joe Keller, Campus News Sports.
The NDSU women have already improved on their number of wins from last year and still have 5 games left to play this season. A new indoor training facility is coming soon for NDSU athletics. The State Board of Higher Education approved the $37.2 million project in 2018. It will be used primarily by the NDSU football team. This new facility will feature 3 fields with artificial turf and will be located south of the Sanford Health Athletic Complex. NDSU is hoping to break ground on the project this spring. The busiest day of the year for Dragon football has a much different look than previous years. With in-person visits being very limited, the coaching staff turned to different means to form a personal relationship with incoming freshmen. Dragons head recruiter Chris Needham says he has taken on the challenge of recruiting in difficult times. Even with the change in circumstances, Needham believes there isn't a change in Dragon culture.
But really, I think what we wanted in this class were those that bought into our culture, our mindset, and just how we go about playing football and executing on the field, and really just bought into who we are.
The Dragons brought in a total of 29 student athletes from across the 5 states. The MSUM wrestling team has been forced to adopt multiple changes in its policies and practices due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Reporter Breck Stutz talked with the team to get their perspective on what they're calling a challenging season.
Getting up close and personal is synonymous with wrestling. One could even assume this physically demanding sport would be off limits entirely in our current distance-regulated environment. Head coach Chris Nelson and assistant coach Jake Lords tell us how the MSUM wrestling program has been impacted by COVID-19.
Never knew if the season was going to happen or not. And I think it played a mental game on a lot of individuals, and we just kept telling them as coaches, be positive and believe that we're going to have a season and keep preparing yourself that you're going to have a season.
While doubt would weigh on the minds of many, the collective resolve of the team eventually paid off. MSUM would go on to have a regular season.
And normally we start in October, but our first competition wasn't until January 1st.
We're grateful, of course, for the opportunity to compete. So we're super excited about that, and we're going to do whatever we have to do to step on the mat and get to compete.
It would be a season faced with many changes and regulations.
We've split up practices. We're not having all 25 to 30 guys in the room at a time. So what we've been doing is we've been having 12 wrestlers in there at a time. I think as coaches, we're getting the opportunity to maybe have a little one-on-one more interaction with some of the individuals.
Luckily, wrestling has had a reputation of being a pretty clean sport. There's always been a skin check right before weigh-ins. We've always disinfected the mats and the room. We have an ozonator in the wrestling room that helps mitigate those issues as well.
Once the match starts, in wrestling, we don't have to wear masks. You don't shake hands at the beginning of a match, which is kind of weird. You don't shake hands, but as soon as the whistle blows, you're all over each other. But those are safety precautions they're putting forward, and we got to follow them.
After competing in 17 events just last season, this year because of COVID-19, the wrestling team will likely only have the chance to compete in 4. With photographer Jeb Dunnick, Breck Stutz, Campus News Sports.
MSUM Wrestling ended its regular season on Thursday. It's unfortunate they had to cancel so many matches.
Well, hopefully they can get in more matches next year.
Thank you, Jordan. With COVID-19 affecting many events, the students of MSUM were able to attend a concert by the Cul-de-sac Kids.
The band consists of Grammy nominee Colin Hauser and The Voice finalist Stevie Joe Rosenbaum. Reporter John Hayes was there to see how the Cul-de-sac Kids were bringing their music to campus.
With the concerts going on in the Sun Garden Lounge, the Cul-de-sac Kids entertained many MSUM students with their mix of their own songs and covers of other bands. Alyssa Golzer was a fan in the crowd that got a surprise during the performance when the Cul-de-sac Kids decided to take her request for a song to sing.
They played my request, so probably that.
She had seen the duo perform once before at their show last year at MSUM, so she had a favorite part of one of the cul-de-sac kids' musical skills.
I guess I really like Stevie's vocals.
When the show had ended, the duo had thought back to one song that was their favorite and also challenged them both as musicians.
My favorite was The Thrill Is Gone. That's just like we get to stretch out and Stevie nails it. And we get to switch a little bit. He plays guitar and sings, and then I get to just kind of, it's a different part of my brain, playing the saxophone and singing and playing.
Stevie, one of the cul-de-sac kids, has a unique instrument that he uses while performing that he did not quite think he would be using in the future of his musical career.
I was like, dude, do you have a cajon? And I was like, yes, I do, actually. And I had never really brought it out and played it. I bought it, and then it just sat somewhere, and I was just waiting for a reason to play it.
When it comes to the times we're in now, the band is seeing what we're all having to deal with and what we want back from the pandemic.
It's cool. I'm just glad that people were listening and came out, and really, I think everyone's really craving that right now. I think we are too.
We're craving that too, for sure.
The band has only had a few performances in the past year due to COVID-19. They say most of them have been outdoors, but they're hoping to get back to having more concerts soon. With photographer Marissa Reed, John Hayes, Campus News.
The Cul-de-sac Kids recently released their new single, I Say.
And that's it for this edition of Campus News.
We leave you with some more music from the Cul-de-sac Kids.
Thank you for joining us, and have a great week.
Campus News is produced by the Television News Workshop in the School of Communication and Journalism at Minnesota State University Moorhead in cooperation with Prairie Public Television.